Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. You can sign up for free and get yourself a free audiobook. Now, just a couple of days ago, we did a pretty groundbreaking interview with Dr. Dale Griffis, who was a 23-year police veteran, retired a captain. After that, consulted with the FBI on cases all over the country. And then he went to work. He was part of a congressional hearing where he gave a press conference at the National Press Club right after a congressional hearing in Congress. All kinds of stuff. And I had arranged this interview with Dale Griffis. We've been going back and forth trying to schedule it for a long time. And just by this really bizarre coincidence, right before I did the interview with Dale Griffis, I was in contact with Tim Tate, who is a documentary filmmaker from the UK. All these great awards. He did the film Conspiracy of Silence. He did a film about the Kinsey cover-up. And a fascinating man. And it just so happened, I was watching one of his documentaries, and who's in there is Dale Griffis. Then I'm talking to Dale, and he's mentioning Maury Terry. Maury Terry, the author of Ultimate Evil, who worked with the DA's office, Santucci in Queens, to reopen the Son of Sam investigation, and then whose investigation went on to get convictions in the murder of Roy Radin. And then he consulted on the O.J. Simpson trial. Turns out that he's friends with Dale Griffis. It's like such a small world. Then we have a mutual friend, Pastor Russ Dizdar, who was a former police chaplain and now has this ministry, international, really, does these kind of investigations, these kind of lectures as well, instructs the police on these kind of investigations. And then on top of that, just not even Monday, it's my life is combined with Dale Griffis. All of a sudden, I'm talking to Doug Millar. Doug Millar worked with the former FBI agent in charge of the whole L.A. district division, Los Angeles division, for many years. And he knew Dale Griffis as well. And everybody I talked to, they're all saying, oh, yeah, Dale Griffis is very impressed with his work. And raving endorses of everybody I've met in the past 2 weeks who knows Dale Griffis. So I just wanted to point that out before we get back. But there were some things that we wanted to cover that we didn't cover in our last interview that we'd like to do today. So, Dr. Griffis, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you.
I hope I can give you some additional facts that might right the ship a little bit.
Well, so far so good. You know, we need to get the record straight here. So I know that one thing that we wanted to clarify a little further was about your doctorate.
Sure. Nothing's ever mentioned the fact that I graduated from Technical College with an associate degree in police science. Then I graduated cum laude with a degree in psychology from Heidelberg College, which is about a 150-year-old institution. And
now, was it a brand new institution when you started there?
Yeah, 200 years ago, yeah, pretty close.
You know me, I can't help it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. What is funny is when I started elementary school, Ed, I went to College Hill Elementary School, and now it is part of Heidelberg College. So I guess I've been around the college. I lived a block and a half growing up from that place. So I've known it. Had the opportunity to do some studying under Dr. Leon Wise and several other great professors, and it was very interesting. And then I got where I needed a couple surgeries on my knee, and this distance learning was just coming into effect, and I read about this school in California, which was approved by the state of California to grant degrees, called Columbia Pacific. And I got my master's degree. And I had an ISP that I had to do that was quite extensive. But I wrote term paper of 80, I think it was right around 89 or 91 pages, which dealt with visual graphics and understanding complicated cases for small agencies. And that took me about a year to get through that. In companion with that, at the same time, I had graduated from 3 police schools on intelligence documentation. Then I had to have another surgery, a second surgery, which I hadn't planned on, and I continued on. And I studied under Dr. Braceland to get my PhD, and I did an ISP on cults and their effects on the objectives of law enforcement. And that you have to, anybody that's gone through that, majority of people have to write a dissertation. Well, my dissertation was about 285 pages long, of which I did a study of over 500, close to 500 people who had been in cults. And I had some people help me get names of these people, and I wrote them. I even talked with them. And then what was brought out in the trial by the defense was my one section on the legality of behavior modification and so forth, and religion, and that was proctored by agents of the FBI in Washington, D.C. I asked for approval because to have them review what I did so that I was legally correct and from the law enforcement standpoint. And that took me pretty close to another, right around 2 years to get that done. So when they talk about a mail order degree, either the mail was awful darn slow or something was wrong, but it took me from 81 to 84 to get through the project. A total of, over the college, my college years was approximately 13 years to get through school from the associate degree, because it took me more than my share of time at Heidelberg because of having to work at the same time. And also one of the helps, Ed, is a program that a lot of people took advantage at the time, was called the LEAP program by the fine Texas president, the law enforcement educational program. You went to college and you stayed on the department 3 years after they picked up the tab for your college. So, yes, did I take advantage of that? Yes, I did. At the same time I was working at the police department, I've got approximately 80 courses, seminars on that I had taken in the 26 years I was on the department. So I was pretty much a lot of schooling and writing, and my dissertation I had to defend, and I defended it. And later on found out after the trial in West Memphis that the Supreme Court of California, in a lawsuit that was filed out there by former people attending Columbia Pacific, at the time I went through the school, it was approved by the state to grant degrees. One of the questions that was asked by me, to me by the defense counsel, is it true that Columbia Pacific is not state accredited? States do not accredit colleges, never have, probably never will, but they will give them the ability to grant degrees. I tried to explain to this attorney several times. The judge and the jury caught it, but he was bound and determined. In fact, he asked the same question, I think, for about 3.5 hours straight. I realized by his asking that, somebody's got a weak case, you go for the expert and try and shoot him out of the saddle. But I stuck to my guns, and in that court case, I was granted the ability to speak as expert after the judge asked me how many cases I worked in cult crimes, and I said around 1,200.
But back to your credentials and your education. You also taught a college-level course in criminal justice. I
taught at Technical College. I guest lectured at probably about 20 different colleges, and I ended up speaking and teaching at The Ohio State University in criminal justice.
And you wrote a book?
My dissertation is 285 pages, something like that. That's one. And then I co-authored a book with Ted Swartz called Secret Weapons on behavior modification and so forth.
And you worked as an investigator for the DA's office?
I worked 3 years at the prosecutor's office part-time. I had some kids getting ready to go to college and had to help out with some college funds, so I worked there as a Secret Service officer on the part-time, and my job basically was putting together cases for trial and preparing witnesses to speak.
The reason why we want to go over that again is because I guess shortly after the conviction of these men in West Memphis, Arkansas, a reality TV kind of a movie came out on HBO called Paradise Lost, The Murder at Robin Hood Hills. And a lot of people describe it as a documentary. But it was really more of a reality TV kind of a new age kind of thing, you know? Not really a documentary that you would call in the classic sense. And a lot of people that are kind of naive and gullible, they watch this reality TV movie, and they saw a very small edited portion of your testimony, mostly of the defense attorney kind of haranguing you about your education. And so many people came away from that with that being the only kind of information they ever had about your career and about your education and your 23-year career as retiring as a police captain and all this work that you've done. They've come away with the wrong impression. So we're just trying to clarify that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I never watched the show. I was told ahead of time that it was a slam dunk on me. I didn't plead guilty to the murders. These people did. Okay? I started in this whole study in 1967 studying cults, and the first occult case was in 1976. And besides being a policeman, and I got to correct you, it was not 23 years, it was 26 years as a policeman. I started it after a kid committed suicide offering his body up to Satan, and nobody in this whole area of Ohio had any idea what the heck was going on. And while I might have been a policeman, I was also a dad. Mm. And I don't like unturned stones. They can come to bite you. And I just wanted to find out what it was. I worked a week with the San Francisco Police Department. I worked a week with the LA Police Department, just so that I knew what was going on in California and so forth. These things you don't hear about in Paradise Lost. They had a job to do. They tried awful darn hard to do it. And what was interesting, all I testified about, in a crime, Ed, there are three things: opportunity, ability, and desire. I only testified to the desire part. And the other two, I don't think you heard anything about at all, did you?
Well, a little bit, and people that have investigated the case have heard a little bit. Like, for instance, that the three men who pled guilty and confessed and implicated themselves at various times, failed polygraph tests. They don't have an alibi for where they were that night. Yeah, so opportunity.
And I think there's been some signed confessions.
Oh, yeah, several.
Yeah. And the thing about it, the guy that testified he was asked a true-false question, and this professor from Berkeley took him a couple hours to answer a true-false question. I don't know how the heck you do that.
What was that? The false confession expert?
BS the troops.
Was that the false confession expert you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my comment, when I testified as an expert, finally got through, it only lasted 20 minutes. I don't think you saw any of that on Paradise Lost.
There's a bit of it. Enough that, the first documentary really wasn't that bad. Many people come away agreeing that the three men that confessed and pled guilty are guilty. There's just like a little question left out. But I think it's more like once the success of that film and people came out and started these support groups and defense awareness funds, where the money, where thousands and thousands and thousands were being raised each week. And where that money was going, nobody really knows. We uncovered some very interesting things about some of the originating founders of these defense groups that we've discussed before in my series of shows on this topic. But not, it really was 50-50, came away from that first broadcast. But now, let me ask you a question. How did you become involved in West Memphis? Like, weren't they having animal mutilations and evidence of sacrifices before you ever testified, and they called you in?
About 18 months prior to that, I had given a talk in Little Rock, Arkansas, and some of the officers from that area of Arkansas were present. And approximately a year in advance of that then, one of those officers sent me information about the cult of the dead cow and the fact that they were having animal mutilations and that they were having some stuff, and that Eccles' name came up at that time.
Really?
And I had sent them a list of things for them to do in the school to do and so forth like that. One of the things I recommended is that they talk with the English teacher and the music teacher to see what lyrics are being written and what's being written in the papers people have to produce, plus take a look at the art department and see if there's what's showing up in the art department, so that you can help steer these kids around so that there's no problems. I don't enjoy putting people in prison. If you can help them, that's fine. I'm glad to do that.
Yeah, especially if we can avoid 3 murders, 3 little
Sure.
8-year-old Boy Scouts. So before these murders ever took place, you were there on the scene because of these animal sacrifices.
I was not on the scene.
Oh.
I was
at a conference.
I was contacted, and I had information sent to me to review.
Gotcha. Now, during the crime and the investigation, we found out that one of the main characters, Damien Eccles, had animal skulls in his bedroom. He had them hanging from a clothesline in his backyard to treat them, whatever he was doing with them, to bleach them. His family was aware of this. His mother was aware. His father was aware. So we know that. That's in police reports. That's documented. But now, do we know after this trial, did this activity, and Eccles is in prison, and these characters are in prison, do we know if that kind of activity continued in that town?
Ceased immediately.
So it all stopped.
The other thing, too, that I think, what is Damien Eccles' name?
True, it's not Damien, yeah.
It's not Damien.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
He's unfortunately, he's a kid that's from I'm looking from a helpful aspect. He's a kid that somehow fell through the cracks, and this is the result of it. And I know this, that having talked with the police officer after the murders took place, I asked him how much of those my suggestions did they take. And he says, "Well, I couldn't get any help at all."
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that.
So, people, one of the interesting things about it is this: when you have a serious situation like that, people want it to happen always down the road. They don't want it in their own backyard. Yeah. It's hard for people to deal with this type of activity. Today, I still feel sorry for the 3 little 8-year-old boys that died. I feel sorry also for one of the perpetrators. I think he got hogwashed into the thing. The other two seem to be in concert with one another. So.
Mm. Well, you mean Miskelly, who's confessed all these numerous times? You think he's the one that got kind of?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I hate to tell you, it's been a few years, but I just knew one of them was not as much a conspirator as the rest of them.
It seems that the only one that's had any remorse has been Miskelly, the one who confessed. He was even confessing to friends before he was ever questioned by the police. He was having a breakdown about his shoes, and he didn't want to see his shoes anymore and take them out of his sight. He was just heartbroken. And then,
didn't Damien Echols also talk to a girl or a girlfriend and confess to her?
In front of the softball girls. He confessed in front of those softball girls who were witnesses to him. He was making statements. Also, too, he took a polygraph test, and he failed that. And he even said, "I says, tell you what, bring my mother here, and I'll tell you guys everything you want to know." And then the mother came, and he locked up, So we discussed a lot of this in our much longer interview. Now, I think another thing you wanted to discuss, too, was how the children were lured in. You believe that they were lured in?
Well, I think they were... Everybody wants to belong to something good.
Right.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all kinds of stuff. And I think they were lured in with the idea they're going to get involved in something good, And that's what I had been told. That part dealt with the ability part more than the desire. So that's all I knew, was that they had been lured in because of they were going to be involved in something good.
That's the 3 killers were lured into this cult, you're trying to say?
No.
The little boys.
3 victims.
Yeah, there was some. I remember reading some stuff about how one of the families mentioned how they saw someone come and take a picture of one of their kids on the front lawn, and they felt that they were being staked out and groomed before the murders.
Yes.
Yeah.
That part I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
But the only thing again, it's sad. We have 3 young youths that will never see what it's like to be 9 years old.
Heartbreaking. And most of these little boys, they'd be like 30 years old right by now.
Yeah.
They'd be in their 30s. These would be men with kids of their own. So
that's right.
It is. It's tragic. And then you see this guy Echols. He comes out of prison now, and who's he go running off with? To meet with people like Johnny Depp and Ed Rollins, all people with all kinds of shady things in their life, and even going to meet with members of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, Genesis P. Orridge. There's photographs of Echols with him, her. People who may not realize it, but P. Orridge is I believe started out as a man and is transitioning into a woman, transgender kind of a character.
Well, I tell you what, you talk with Terry, and he can explain the Process Church to you.
Oh yeah, no, we discuss it. Yeah, I'm in a group with Maury Terry. He reveals information to us all the time. Fascinating stuff. Trying to get him to come on the show. You promised me you're going to talk to him for me, right?
What? What's that?
I'm trying to get him to come on my show, and remember you said you'd talk to him for me?
I'll be glad to. Yes, I will.
You didn't forget already, did you? Okay.
But what was interesting is I hope that those kids that were sitting in the trial box,
that
were followers, have turned their life into a more profitable situation.
Well, unfortunately, we know where some of them have gone. A couple of them, 3 of them, as a matter of fact, turned up on MTV that they were involved in a polygamous relationship, polyamorous, I think it's called, where the 3 of them, 2 men and a woman, live together as a multicultural family, marriage or whatever you want to call it. So we've seen where a couple of these people have wound up, and none of it very good. With Damien Eccles' girlfriend, Dominique Tier, Child Protective Services had to go to the house there because they were hoarding animals and they were trying to take away the kids. There was other shootings and stabbings on family members from this bunch. Just a tragedy all over this whole group, over and over. People being arrested, stabbings, drunken driving arrests, all kinds of stuff. So I haven't seen too much good come out of this. Very few.
In other words, you're telling me they're not stalwarts of society.
Unfortunately, no. I don't think anybody in that town really was, And for people to think this was Mayberry, this was the Bible Belt, and they saw a couple of kids wearing black shirts and pointed them out and said, well, let's have a witch hunt. Obviously that's not the case, that there was suspicions about Eccles before these murders, the animal mutilations before the murders, animal heads found in his home, and then animal mutilation stopped after the conviction. So I think...
I would also tell you the murder stopped.
The murder stopped as well. That's true. There was never another murder. And there was never another confession by Miskelly. Miskelly could have easily said, hey, it was the Bojangles man. Me and Bojangles did it, the black guy from the Bojangles chicken place.
Yeah.
Could have easily said that. Never happened.
One of the other things when this case is all over with, and the testimony and so forth, and I got on the plane heading back, I looked at what I'd done and what I did do and didn't do, and I was really kind of kicking myself in the backside a little bit because I had no knowledge these people did not follow the instructions I had given them. And as a result, 3 kids died. And I felt very bad for the parents. I felt bad for the victims. It wasn't exactly my job to follow through with it, but on the other hand, I sure wish that people had listened. That's all.
And what if you ever had the slightest fear or indication in your heart that perhaps the 3 men who confessed and pled guilty were not guilty? What do you think you would do then? Would you try and come out and investigate and take a look again and try and help out?
Yeah, I never, ever in 26 years ever wanted to put somebody in jail that didn't belong there.
Amen.
And I always kind of the precept, my dad was a policeman, and his comment to me years ago when I first started was, prove that the perpetrator was not innocent. That's something to think about. Prove the perpetrator is not innocent. In other words, listen to their side, listen to what's going on, and then weigh the facts and stack them up. I don't believe in going into a case where, you got a premeditated focal view. Throw out the cards and bring them in and see how they stack up. We got guys in that 3 people that confessed. I think 2 of them signed confessions, didn't they?
Confessions was signed confessions was only one. Miskelly signed a confession after being it was a videotape confession, as a matter of fact. Then he confessed.
I think the other one, besides Eccles, also didn't he give a statement? Or?
No, he confessed to a cellmate in jail.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. I knew somehow there was some sort of a admission against his own interest.
They've all implicated themselves. There's no doubt about that.
Yes. Yes.
And the defense raised so much money. These supporters. There's one report that the guy who wrote the movie The Hobbit has donated over $11 million for the defense fund. I think his name is Rollins, J.P. Rollins. So the amount of money that they had to throw against this and hire really the incredible legal team and offer rewards for witnesses. There was a big billboard in town saying, if you have any information, come forward, dollar signs, come on in. We'll write down anything you say. Point the finger anywhere and we'll pay you. So it's amazing what the other side in this case has, and the amount of power and money and celebrity that has come in to support these killers.
Well, from what I understand, in conclusion, they've all signed a statement they were guilty. Is that correct?
Yeah, they've all pled guilty, yeah.
Also, since they went to court, went to prison, there's never been another incident of similar taste either, has there?
Yeah, that's true.
And consequently, those people that assist them on a regular basis, you've kind of brought up the fact that some of their backgrounds are a tad shady, are they?
Yeah.
So, all I can say is I try to be an honest individual and give an honest opinion.
And I'd also like to say, too, that other objective journalists that I've discussed this case with, like Pat Brown and criminal profiler Pat Brown, Diane Diamond, other people from HLN and Court TV, whenever I bring up this case, it's always the exact same reaction. Oh, God. Because they know that when you talk about this case, the fans of these killers are the most obnoxious, vile online harassers and stalkers. I told you some stories off the air with my own life, and it's an organized group of trolls, internet trolls, that will make your life miserable. So anybody who tries to discuss this fairly will come under attack by this bunch. So I really do thank you, Dale, for coming back into the public eye. I know you said last time you said it would be your last interview, and I joked around.
This is my last interview. That's correct.
Okay, because last time you said that, and I said I'll call you tomorrow, and I got you tomorrow. So who knows?
But I am enjoying retired life. Watching my grandkids grow up and do a little trout fishing, and other than that, I hope to. I collect pens as a hobby and try and get my mind off of all the other stuff. I've been involved in criminal justice for close to 50 years, and now it's time to back away.
Well, Dr. Griffis, thank you for your service. Okay, thank you very much. And it's been an honor to meet you and talk to you and become friends with you. I second everything everyone said to me about you. All these people I've been talking to the past couple of weeks, everyone has great words to say about you, and I agree. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very kindly, and I just try to do what's right. And, sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in, and I did.
Amen. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, there we had Dr. Dale Griffis, and this was just like a little preview. What do you call it? Epilogue at the end to add on to our last interview that we did, which is available in our members section. It's available up on YouTube for I think it's $1.99, something like that. It's available in the archive section on OppermanReport.com. We did about a 70 or 80 minute interview in detail, covering a lot more than this little free preview that we're giving you here. We just wanted to clarify a couple of things that weren't clarified in the first interview. So you can find that at OppermanReport.com. you can join, become a member, and get that, hold of that right away, or you can go to YouTube and you can pick it up on there, or you can go to the OppermanReport.com archive section, and you can pick up that interview over there, the longer interview that we did with Dr. Dale Griffis. And like I said, I don't want to puff him up too much when he's on the air with me, but just by absolute coincidence, this week I just happened to be talking to all these other individuals, and everyone who heard his name all had the same thing to say. You know, he's an honorable man, a respectable man, a dignified man, very accomplished, educated, and 26 years, I kept saying 23 years, but 26 years in law enforcement without a complaint or a discipline or anything like that. So thank you very much, Dr. Dale Griffis, and everyone who's listening to the show. We'll see you next week with more new content. Okay.